Born on January 17, 1706, in colonial Boston, Benjamin Franklin was the 15th child in a family of 17. His father, Josiah Franklin, was a candlemaker, and young Ben was initially destined for the clergy. With only 2 years of formal schooling, Franklin educated himself through voracious reading. At 12, he apprenticed under his older brother James at a print shop, where he learned the printer's trade. Denied a byline, the teenaged Franklin adopted the pseudonym Silence Dogood, posing as a middle-aged widow and secretly penning satirical letters to his brother's newspaper, the New England Courant. The Courant's readers loved Mrs. Dogood's letters, much to the ire of James when he discovered the popular writer was actually his younger brother. When James was jailed for libel, young Ben kept the press running in his absence, later using this as justification to declare himself free from the abusive apprenticeship to which he was legally bound. In 1723, at age 17, Franklin fled Boston and arrived in Philadelphia as a penniless fugitive. He found work in local print shops and by 1728, at only 22, owned his own business. He bought the Pennsylvania Gazette and transformed it into the most widely read paper in the colonies. In 1727 he founded the Junto, a club for artisans and intellectuals to debate and improve their city. From it came civic institutions such as the Library Company of Philadelphia in 1731, America's first lending library. In 1730, Franklin began a common-law marriage with Deborah Reed. They raised his illegitimate son, William, and had 2 more children. During these years he published Poor Richard's Almanac under the pen name Richard Saunders, packing it with witty maxims that spread his fame far beyond Philadelphia. By the late 1740s, Franklin's success allowed him to retire from daily business at 42 and turn to science, inventions, and public affairs. Franklin's most famous experiment took place in 1752, when he flew a kite under shelter into a storm, drawing an electrical charge from a key and proving that lightning was electricity. Curious as ever, he continued his investigations and coined several electrical terms such as battery, charge, conductor, and electrician. His findings were published across Europe, making him one of the first American scientists to achieve global fame. One practical outcome of his discoveries was his invention of the lightning rod. He mounted metal rods atop buildings and attached them to grounding wires to safely divert lightning strikes into the ground. This simple but revolutionary mechanism has saved countless structures and lives and is perhaps Franklin's most famous scientific legacy. However, Franklin's inventive genius extended well beyond this field. He had a knack for identifying everyday problems and solving them with practical designs. Among his numerous inventions were bifocal eyeglasses, which he created to remedy his own difficulty in seeing both near and far. He also invented the Franklin stove, a cast-iron heating stove that provided more heat with less fuel than a traditional fireplace. Other creations included the glass harmonica, a musical instrument consisting of spinning glass bowls that produce ethereal tones, a flexible urinary catheter, an early odometer to measure postal routes, and swim fins for his hands, developed as a young man experimenting with swimming techniques. Not all of Franklin's scientific contributions were physical inventions, some were brilliant observations of nature. During his ocean voyages, Franklin became curious about why journeys from Europe to America took longer than the reverse. He investigated ocean currents and in 1769 charted the Gulf Stream, becoming the first to map this major Atlantic current and even giving it its name. Ships began to follow his chart to sail more efficiently. Franklin also made advances in meteorology, recognizing the movement of storm systems, and famously showed that oil calms waters by studying surface tension on a pond. Few realms of natural science escaped his interest. One of Franklin's often overlooked scientific and technical contributions was in the realm of printing itself, specifically, paper currency. As a master printer, Franklin printed paper money for Pennsylvania and other colonies, developing anti-counterfeiting methods using colored threads, mica, and leaf impressions to foil forgers. In the mid-18th century, Franklin's focus shifted increasingly to public affairs. He served in the Pennsylvania Assembly, became Deputy Postmaster General for North America, and in 1757 went to London as a colonial agent. Franklin lived there for 18 years and considered himself a loyal British subject. Even though he became a celebrity in intellectual circles, he grew disillusioned with the dismissive attitude of many in the British government toward the American colonies. The break came in 1773 with the Hutchinson Letters affair. While in London, he obtained a packet of private letters written by Thomas Hutchinson, the royal governor of Massachusetts, in which Hutchinson urged repressive measures against the colonists. Believing the colonies needed to know the truth about the attitudes of royal officials, Franklin forwarded these letters to leaders in Massachusetts, outraging Americans. Their publication caused a scandal, and Franklin was publicly humiliated before the Privy Council in 1774. He was dismissed as Postmaster General and left England in 1775, with the Revolution already underway. Franklin arrived in Philadelphia in May that year and was promptly elected to the Second Continental Congress. However, the American Revolution brought one of the most painful personal episodes for him. William, who had been raised and educated with his father's full support and affection, had risen to prominence as the royal governor of New Jersey under King George III and remained a staunch Loyalist. Franklin urged him to join the Patriot cause, but he refused and worked actively against it. He was imprisoned for over 2 years by the revolutionary forces and never reconciled with his father. Despite the pain, now in his 70s, Franklin lived up to the historical moment. He brought his weight of experience and international repute to the Patriot cause. He helped draft the Declaration of Independence in 1776 as part of the five-man committee, though Thomas Jefferson was primary author. During the debates, Franklin offered his famous wry encouragement to the hesitant delegates: "We must all hang together, or most assuredly we shall all hang separately," reminding them of the need for unity in the face of British treason charges. Franklin signed the Declaration, committing himself fully to the revolution. In late 1776, Congress dispatched Franklin to France to secure support for the revolutionary cause. Franklin's years in Paris were extraordinarily successful. With his scientific fame, rustic style, and witty charm, Franklin became a superstar in French society. He was idolized as the personification of New World simplicity and Republican virtue. Beyond the celebrity, Franklin proved a masterful diplomat. He navigated the complex intrigues of the French court and kept the peace delegation united. When John Adams and others proved abrasive to the French, Franklin smoothed relations. His efforts paid off. In 1778, he persuaded France to sign the Treaty of Alliance, bringing French military and financial support into the war and helping to tip the scales against Britain. French armies and navies, arms, and loans were essential to the ultimate American victory. When Britain signaled willingness to negotiate an end to the war, Franklin was appointed one of the peace commissioners. Despite his age and occasional bouts of gout, he was a shrewd negotiator. The resulting Treaty of Paris of 1783 not only secured American independence but, thanks in part to Franklin's tact, gained exceptionally generous boundaries for the new United States. By the end of his career, Franklin had the distinction of being the only founding father to sign the 4 key documents of the nation's birth: the Declaration of Independence in 1776, the Treaty of Alliance with France in 1778, the Treaty of Paris ending the war in 1783, and later the U.S. Constitution in 1787. Franklin returned to America in 1785 at age 79, old but celebrated as the Sage of the Revolution. Philadelphia greeted him with cheers and cannons. Despite longing for rest after nearly a decade abroad, Franklin was almost immediately pressed back into public service. He was elected president of Pennsylvania, a largely ceremonial role he held from 1785 to 1788, and in 1787 he was a delegate to the Constitutional Convention. At 81, Franklin was the oldest delegate. Though frail and often carried in a sedan chair, his mere presence lent gravity to the proceedings. During the contentious debates over the Constitution, Franklin played the role of wise conciliator. He urged delegates to cooperate and accept compromise in the spirit of forming a more perfect union. In one famous episode on the last day of the convention, Franklin pointed to the ornate sun carved on the back of General Washington's chair. He confessed that throughout the convention he had wondered whether that sun was rising or setting, a metaphor for the young nation's fate, but now, with the Constitution complete, he joyfully believed it was a rising sun and that the country's prospects were bright. After the convention, Franklin's health deteriorated. He suffered from obesity and painful gout and kidney stones. Yet even in his final years, he remained intellectually active and socially engaged. One arena in which Franklin made a profound final contribution was the cause of abolishing slavery. In his youth and middle age, Franklin had been a slave owner and even profited by printing slave sale advertisements. However, his views evolved, especially under the influence of the social circles in London and Paris that opposed human bondage. In 1787, Franklin became president of the Pennsylvania Society for Promoting the Abolition of Slavery, the first anti-slavery society in America. In February 1790, at the age of 84, Franklin carried out his last great public act. He petitioned the United States Congress, in the name of the Abolition Society, calling for the federal government to take steps to end slavery and the slave trade. Congress tabled the petition after heated debate, citing constitutional limitations and appeasing the southern states. Just 2 months after appearing before Congress, Benjamin Franklin died on April 17, 1790, in Philadelphia, surrounded by family. He was 84 years old. His passing elicited an extraordinary outpouring of tribute and grief on both sides of the Atlantic. In Philadelphia, some 20,000 people, half the city's population, turned out for his funeral procession to Christ Church burial ground. France, in particular, mourned Franklin profoundly. The National Assembly decreed 3 days of official mourning, a unique honor for a foreign statesman. The Assembly's president, Abbe wrote to Congress that although Franklin was not a Frenchman, great men are the fathers of universal humanity and that Franklin's name would be immortal in the records of freedom and philosophy. No other American founding father received such international veneration at death. Franklin's burial was simple, as he had requested. He was laid to rest beside his wife Deborah under a modest gravestone he had written himself years earlier, Benjamin and Deborah Franklin 1790. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deeper look into the extraordinary life of Benjamin Franklin, a printer, an inventor, and one of America's most beloved founding fathers, be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you don't miss our next journey through history. See you next time.